This is the Big Kids Show. I'm Mark, and thanks for landing with us here on the notorious B.I.G. Show. With me, I have two of your favorites, Big Nick and Mr. B. Now, let's get to the important stuff. If you haven't already, please be sure, like, subscribe, give us a rating, drop us a review, tell your neighbor. All those things help us on our way and reach more big kids like you. As always, we greatly appreciate all of our listeners and all of your support. Today, we're going to be doing the Big Kid preview of America's favorite sports league. Yes, that's right. This is our official season preview of the 24-25 NFL season.
Yeah.
Woo-hoo. We're going to cover everything from division champ predictions to who will win the Super Bowl. Now, boys, this is our second year of really diving into this preseason preview, Big Kid style. So, as I've mentioned previously, if you heard last year's, we are going to work our way through the conference division by division. We're going to pick all the division winners, so you can take that bet to Vegas that you need to put the extra mortgage on your house or lose the second mortgage on your house, whichever one it is. And then we're going to find our way to conference champions, which then leads us to, obviously, that's going to be our Super Bowl, along with our Super Bowl pick. So, boys, this is a big one. It's always a lot to bite off, so let's dive right into it. So let's start with the AFC, boys. And I know, Big Nick, you are chomping to talk some NFL. Before we even got on and pre-production, he starts going into the detail. Like, Nick,
he's got
I know
NFL
you're excited,
ADD.
man. I know you're excited.
I was shushed many times.
Many times. That's because we wanted to save the good stuff for the big kids out there. So let's start in the AFC here, boys. Let's start off in the eastern part of the AFC because it's always spicy in the East. So we've got, obviously, the Buffalo Bills, the Miami Dolphins, the New York Jets, and the New England Patriots. I'll do kind of a quick recap of each division just so we can kind of level set where things ended last year, and that'll kind of help propel us into the talk. So last year we had the Bills winning the division, with the Dolphins actually coming in second, but with the same record. So they both had an 11-6 record. The Jets were 7-10. The Patriots were 4-13. Yikes. So, Big Nick, let's start off with you. Division champ. Who do you have in the AFC East?
Well, you get 30 seconds.
I have
Good luck with that.
I have the Bills inching out the Dolphins, which is not a big surprise. And I say inching out. Last year they have the same record, but due to, I believe, a head-to-head schedule or however they determined the tiebreaker, the Bills got that tiebreaker. And remember, they had that huge win that we were looking at the Bills last year at one point late in the season, and they were not even a playoff team. They were still fighting and scraping to get into the playoffs. And then that win, what happens is the Tennessee Titans go into Miami and beat Miami with an upset. That really stirred up the division.
It's a big one.
Then a late loss of Miami to Buffalo then pole vaulted Buffalo into that top spot in that division, which I believe gave them the number 2 seed. So the Dolphins seem to be a team the last 2 years that they don't want to be on the road when the playoffs hit. They don't want to be playing in cold weather towns when the playoffs hit. And that's what's happened to them the last couple of years. And they've paid for it. So I think Bills inch out the Dolphins again this year. Here's my surprise, though, and I'll tell you how I arrived at this later because I've been limited to 30 seconds, and I've already gone well over that. But I have the Bills inching out the Dolphins to win the division, but the Dolphins falling short of the playoffs this year.
Wow.
There's a bold prediction right there.
So that big contract for Tua and for Tyreek, all for nothing is what you're saying.
9-8 is what I see the Dolphins at, and that hurts me a little bit because, like deep down inside, there's a little tiny Dolphins fan that lives within Big Nick.
He's a little guy.
He's a tiny little guy, but he's fast as hell. He is as hell.
Like a cheetah. Like a cheetah. All right. That's fair enough. Mr. B. What about you?
See, I think this is an interesting one because the Jets still intrigue me, and depending on what Aaron Rodgers shows up and looks like.
And doesn't tear his ACL the first
And same with
Or Achilles,
if the Dolphins defense improves, they're looking pretty good, because I feel like the Bills lost more players than they gained.
Yeah.
So I'm actually going to go with, I think the Dolphins are going to win the division, but with a caveat that the Jets could be sneaky and eke out some wins pending Aaron Rodgers can play like he used to.
Gotcha. So Dolphins is your pick. But you're
Dolphins is
saying
my pick, but the Jets are kind of a coin flip, because also he could get hurt in the first 4 plays again, and then you're in trouble. But I think the Dolphins didn't regress as much in the offseason as the Bills did.
I agree. Yeah. Yeah, Mr. B, I'm with you. I've got the Dolphins as well. Now, I'll flip things on its head later for you guys, but we'll save that surprise for later in the episode. So I'm with you. The Jets, to me, are kind of a wild card in the sense of we didn't even get to see how good Aaron Rodgers was last year. So coming off the Achilles, obviously he's very recovered from it. Quite a lot of ayahuasca experiences between that injury and right now. So hopefully he's got his mind right. They could be interesting. I don't think
that possible.
Yeah,
for Mr. Rodgers to get his mind right.
Welcome to the neighborhood. Won't you be my neighbor? I think the Patriots are still just bottom dwellers in this division. I mean, Drake May, maybe he's somebody, but the chances of that happening, I don't see it panning out. So I'm with you. I got Dolphins. I think it's going to be tight with the Bills. I think I still probably have them at second, but the Jets, like you said, could surprise. They could jump up. So
2 things before we wrap up this division. I'm excited to see Gerard Mayo, the new coach of the Patriots.
Yep.
Excited to see what he can do. He's one of those dudes that a lot of the guys just jump on his back. He's easy to rally behind. He's an exciting coach. Youngster, 38 years old. We're getting to the point now where a handful of years ago, we were older than the players. Now we're starting to get older than some of these coaches. But
bite your tongue.
I'm excited to see Mayo. I think he's going to do a fantastic job. So I look for him to move them in the right direction. And really, I do have the Bills, but I have them at 10-7 this year. I took a look at their schedule, man. Their schedule seems much more difficult. If the teams play the way they played last year, this schedule seems to be a lot more difficult than the schedule they had last year.
Yeah, it's going to be a challenge. I mean, and I think, there's quite a few, there's a few divisions this year, I think, that have more than 2 competitive teams that are potential division winners, and this is definitely one of them.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's head to the opposite end. Let's go AFC West here, boys. Mr. B, I'll let you kick us off first time on this one. So Kansas City Chiefs, just a quick recap, 11-6, obviously took things to the house. Raiders 8-9. Anybody who's watched Receiver on Netflix, which I highly recommend, know that there was some challenges last year with the Raiders, but they feel like they've got some things figured out. We'll see about that. Denver Broncos 8-9. The Russell Wilson experience has fizzled completely out. And then the Chargers at 5-12.
Yeah, that was disappointing.
Hard to believe, but that's where they ended up. So 1 game off of the Patriots that we just talked about. So Mr. B, what do you got for us? AFC West.
I mean, it's hard to not pick the Chiefs just coming off a Super Bowl. They didn't lose a ton of players. If anything, I feel like they maybe even gained some stuff. So I think the Chiefs are going to win the AFC West again. I don't like to say that out loud. I personally, I would like to see the Raiders win it, but my reluctant pick, just because I don't like to say it out loud, is the Chiefs.
Yeah. I'm with you, Big Nick.
I'm with B as well. I would like to see the Raiders. I think their defense is one of my favorites to watch. They're an exciting defense. I love Devontae Adams. He continues to be one of my favorite players, even on his bad days. I don't know. He's such an alpha male that and he's so damn smart too. Like football IQ through the roof. Now, the thing, and I second what you said there, Mark, that receiver show is great. The biggest thing I learned, though, the biggest surprise for me was that Devontae Adams doesn't actually have a Taco Bell in his living room like the commercials would imply. I fully thought, I'm like, yeah, if anybody had a Taco Bell in their house, that's the dude that's cool enough to have the Taco Bell in his house. Fully staffed, fully operational.
24/7.
Just whenever he wants a quesadilla, it's ready. But Chiefs are just too damn good. I think Pat Mahomes just continues to get better, and their defense is really good. They lost that cornerback that was
I'm blanking on his name, but I know you're talking about
Sneed.
Yep.
That dude was amazing. I mean, he shut down corners, so that could show us a little bit of something there. That's something to keep an eye on. But I think Pacheco just keeps getting better and better. And I think what they want to do this year is a little less razzle dazzle, a little more ground game with Pacheco, beat people old school style, and then get to the playoffs and let Pat Mahomes just fly. So I actually have this division. I'm going to be watching a lot of Raider games this year because of that defense. It's so much fun. But their quarterback play, I am not impressed with these two quarterbacks. Now, I hope that I would love to be pleasantly surprised and be wrong, but I think that this is a bottom heavy division. I'm not impressed with the Broncos. I'm not impressed with the Chargers. I don't think Harbaugh goes in there and flips the script right away.
That's tough. That's tough year one coach to do that, especially transitioning from college.
I have the Chiefs rocking that division 12-5, and the other three teams, none of them winning more than 6 games.
And that's probably pretty close, but yeah, unfortunately.
I mean, I think it's in the ballpark, and so I've got the Chiefs as well. I mean, I don't think there's any surprise. All of us are going to pick the Chiefs. I also would love to see the Raiders kind of pull through. I think Antonio Pierce is kind of an exciting coach. Obviously, the guys respond.
Yeah, I like that dude.
Yeah, he's kind of brings that new school energy and excitement. I mean, he almost acts like a player as a coach, and I think the players respond to that.
Yeah, he's a player's coach.
He is. I mean, and to have Devontae Adams go from get me out of here to, well, maybe let's see what happens without any real personnel changes except for Jimmy Garoppolo getting benched, which you could see the frustration in that receivers series with Jimmy G.
Well, and that I loved that was sneaky good about some of the highlights or lowlights that they were showing of the Raiders season last year, specifically talking to Devontae Adams. I loved when he said, it wasn't so great when he said it's not all about the W's for me. Like, you don't want to hear dude say that, but he was talking about stuff on a different level about how the tape should look good. The film should look good. The team should look good. It's not all about the W's. You got to perform well, and the whole team's got to perform well. But the thing that really made me allow that it's not about all about the W's for me slip, like, I'm going to give that a pass because of this statement that he said. He said, when you look at how good this roster is, there's no excuse for us not having a better record. And that means that he's got appreciation and respect for his fellow teammates. And I think that's they're clearly, Mr. B was spot on when we talked about, I can't remember what we titled the show, but we were talking about coaches that should get fired.
Oh, yeah. I called it like 2 weeks before he was let go.
Yeah. It turns out that the owner of the Raiders listened to our show and was like, you know what? That Mr. B's right. I'm going to fire this guy.
Anybody out there concerned about your job, you just check with Mr. B and see what your standing looks like.
He likes money, fast cars, and guitars.
It's Zoltar. You have a quarter. You have to land it in his mouth.
That's how you stay on his good side. But yeah, that's an exciting division, and to me, it's a little bit depressing that the Chiefs are going to be so much better than the other 3 teams.
Yeah.
Obviously, barring scary stuff like injuries, but yeah, the Chiefs, I think, are going to lock it in again.
Yeah, I agree. All right, boys. Let's go south where the sun shines at. Let's see what they got going on down there. We got the Houston Texans, who jumped up and took that division, 10-7 as the winners of that one. It ended up being pretty close in this division as well. Yeah. So you got the Jaguars at 9-8. You got the Colts at 9-8, even though they lost their starting quarterback very earlier in the year, the rookie, and then the Tennessee Titans at 6-11. So, Big Nick, let's kick it your way. What do you have for the AFC South?
Well, the AFC South, I think it's going to be very close to a repeat from last year. I expect this division to be very competitive. I expect the Titans to take a pretty big step forward. I like some of the moves that they made with that roster. I like the coaching changes. I think the Titans and the Colts could have winning records this year, the Jags as well. But I think the Texans are going to continue to stay at top of this division. And one thing that has flown under the radar that didn't wasn't lost on me last week, boys, when I was watching the Hall of Fame game. The Texans, you got CJ Stroud sitting on the sidelines, rightfully so. He doesn't need to be playing in no Hall of Fame game. He's an awesome quarterback. Nothing to worry about there. Your second string quarterback is Davis Mills, he's not bad. He's not bad. I think they got the best quarterback room in the NFL because quarterback number 3, how many times have I told you this, boys? Maybe the greatest quarterback ever to play the game. Case Keenum is their third string quarterback. You know, Big Nick loves some Case Keenum. President of the Case Keenum fan club, of course. Everybody, if you're waiting, the newsletter is a little late this week. I'll have it out next week. The Case Keenum newsletter will be out in your email inbox. Look for it tomorrow. But no, I think that's an interesting quarterback room. I love what they're doing coaching wise there. And the closer we get to the season, I'm starting to expect big things from Stephon Diggs. I really am. So Houston Texans win the South.
What you say, Mr. B?
Big Nick, pretty spot on with that. I think this is another division that they just beat each other up. I mean, it's very reminiscent of AFC North where they're all pretty tight and tough. I think the Texans are, at least to me, going to be the favorite. I think they improved drastically from last year, and now CJ Stroud going into year 2. If I remember right, I think we even thought the Texans were going to be close to dead last and showed everybody wrong. So, but I think the Colts might be one that's really going to test them. Jaguars, yeah. And then, unfortunately, the Titans, I think they got worse. So I'm going to go with the Texans also, Big Nick. You're a smart man.
Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, I think I've got the Texans as well. I mean, I for what CJ Stroud did last year, I thought there was a chance that they may end up in the big dance.
And watch this, Mark. Joe Mixon's going to have his career year once we got rid of him. Joe Mixon's going to go lights out and have 1,800 yards rushing and 20 touchdowns.
For any of I saw a post for any of our EA Madden players. The new Madden 25 has Mixon ranked his highest ever rating at a 91.
Whoa!
They had him at an 87 last year, so I'm not sure how he jumped into the 90s just because he switched to the Texans. It must be the curse of the Bengals. But I just think they got too many weapons. I mean, even with Mixon, if he's not a top notch, they've got Dameon Pierce with those 3 receivers: Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Stephon Diggs. I mean, that's a room.
That's arguably one of the best 3 receivers on a team.
Yeah. I mean, at least the AFC, if not the whole NFL. They got Dalton Schultz at tight end, who they locked up for a few more years. So, I mean, and their defense is tough, so I think the Texans they're going to be a tough play this year. I think the Jaguars will be pretty good again. I think Trevor Lawrence is still slowly getting better. I do think he's improving. I thought, there was a chance there. I'm like, oh, he's starting to look like he might not be what everybody said he was going to be, but I think it's just taking a little bit longer. And it is easy to forget that the era of letting a guy sit out a year and actually learn is kind of out the window. It's throw these guys to the wolves. And if you can't, it's Hunger Games. And if you don't survive the first year, well, you're just not an NFL quarterback, which is kind of unfair if you ask me. But I think with what these guys get paid, the expectation is you come in, you better be ready to roll. So it'd be interesting to see what CJ Stroud does in that second year. Trevor Lawrence with his 3rd year, right?
No, so yeah. Wait, is that right?
Yeah, I think it's his 3rd, or is this his 4th year? 3rd or 4th year?
3rd year. You're right. He's a year behind Burrow.
Okay, I know he did sign a contract extension as well, so maybe it is a 4th year. But yeah, the Texans. I don't know. Will Levis, Mason Rudolph. They don't excite me very much. I know they drafted a tackle in the 1st round, so that kind of just screams to me, hey, we're building for coming in the next few years. You know what I mean? And I think we'll kind of see where that ends up. And then with the Colts, Anthony Richardson, who knows? Joe Flacco's the backup. So if Richardson can't hold it down, we saw what Flacco did with the Browns last year.
Flacco's going to bring the thunder.
It's coming back. Wacky Flacky. So we'll see how it goes. But obviously they got Jonathan Taylor. They got Michael Pittman Jr. They got some weapons as well. So
Flacco played so good in Cleveland, they were worried that it hurt Deshaun Watson's feelings, so they had to ship him out of Cleveland. And I'm not wishing anything bad on anybody. I hope that Joe Mixon has a wonderful career and has a wonderful, peaceful time off of the field as well.
No guns.
My concern here, boys, is he went from Cincinnati, not even the most populous city in Ohio, to the fourth most populous city in the entire United States. I don't think late nights on the streets of Houston are going to play out well for Joseph Mixon. So I hope that I'm wrong, and I hope that he is a model citizen, but I would be cautious with him.
He needs a chaperone, but hey, Texas also very pro-gun. So,
and that is true. Texas is pro-gun, so maybe he'll fit in nicely. But I don't know, that team is set up for a running back of his caliber to thrive. So if he can play nice and play good with everybody, I think he will have a big season.
Yep.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Absolutely. All right, boys, let's kick it up to the AFC North.
The most important division in the NFL.
It's the
King
only
of
one
the
that matters.
North. King of the North. All right.
If you don't like the AFC North, well then fuck you.
Wow.
That's my boy. That's my boy.
All right, so the rest of this episode will be dedicated to the AFC North here. We're just going to lop the NFC off completely. No, I'm just kidding. So let's dive in, boys. This to me still, again, probably some bias, but I still feel like one of the most competitive divisions in the entire league. The only division last year to have all four teams have a winning record.
Exactly.
So you had the Baltimore Ravens, who they cooked last year. Let's just call it what it was. They went 13-4. The Browns came in at 11-6, got themselves a nice playoff spot. Finally got some playoff football up in Cleveland. The Steelers also somehow eked their way into the playoffs at 10-7. Bengals ended up at 9-8. Mr. B, why don't you kick us off on this AFC North journey? What do you got for us?
Bengals undefeated championship.
It is.
No,
you heard it here first. Big Kid Show.
Again, the division's so tough that, I mean, these teams beat each other up that it actually can hurt their chances in terms of getting a number one seed. I think the Ravens, they only got better since last year. I mean, obviously barring industry, it hurts me to say it, but I think the Ravens are going to win it. And I think the number two, I mean, I'm obviously very hopeful our Bengals get it together. They started off really slow and put it together at the end, still ended up 9-8. But the Browns with their defense, I mean, just the defensive alone, it'll keep them in games regardless.
Yeah.
But I'm going to have to go with the Ravens to win it. I think the Bengals go 2, Browns 3, Steelers 4, but that's just my wishful thinking.
Yep.
Or maybe we have the first year ever that all 4 make the playoffs.
How crazy would that be? That would be. I mean, we were close to it last year.
I'm on board
we
with
weren't that far away. I mean, so anything is possible. Especially if the Dolphins, since they were the one that took the other playoff spot outside of division winners. If Big Nick's prediction comes true, and they go 9-8, anything's possible.
You are jumping all over exactly what I have here. I have the Dolphins falling short of the playoffs because all 4 have winning records out of the AFC North, all 4 making the playoffs.
Speaking hot takes,
I'll tell you what, I'll continue with some hot takes here, but before I do, unfortunately, I'm with B here. It makes me sick to my stomach.
It's hard to say out loud, right?
It hurts my soul. I think the Ravens win the division again, and I tell you, boys, I'm sick in my balls about it. But I think the Ravens win the division. I think the Bengals are a close second, and I think the Browns and Steelers tie for last at 10-7, which would put them, by my rankings and overall picture, puts both teams into the playoffs. Now, here's my hot take here. Bold prediction time. While the Ravens win the division, the Bengals make it further in the playoffs than the Ravens do.
And you know what? There's a reason why you're on the show. You're a smart man, and I like you.
That's right. That's right. We only allow that level of intelligence on this show.
Thank you.
So
I'm recognized.
I'm with you, boys. I actually had the Bengals, but if I'm being 100% honest, I don't see I don't see the Ravens regressing in any way, and going 13-4 last year, it didn't feel like a fluky 13-4.
Well, and if you really think about it, they went 13-3 and they conceded the last game.
Yeah.
So like, don't even count that fourth loss as a real loss because they just put in the backups.
I mean, Lamar Jackson to me probably had one of his best years ever. Didn't really have any real receivers to throw to. I mean, even this year, Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, Nelson Aguilar, like on paper, those guys don't like blow me away. You know, I mean, they've been waiting for Rashad Bateman to come through since he was a first round pick for 3 years now. And the guy just can't seem to put it together. Zay Flowers seems like he's going to be pretty quality. And Aguilar is a good number 3. You know what I mean? He's a solid
Let's talk
3.
about the big ad that they put on there. King Henry there.
King Henry's the big one.
Now, I mean, how does that hurt their squad to put a 6'4", 250-pound running back in the backfield with Lamar Jackson? I mean, geez.
Yeah. I mean, the guy's 31 now, but to me, he's not an average. I mean, I saw one of his workout tapes, and I'm like, at the height of my athletic ability, I could never even pretend to do like half of what this guy's doing. He's an absolute beast. So, yeah, I think the Ravens are going to take the division. I'm optimistic for my Bengals as well, but I'll be honest. I need to see Joe Burrow stay healthy. I mean,
that's the caveat with a lot of these things is injury stuff. I mean, God forbid Lamar Jackson gets hurt early in the season. Well, are they going 13-4 again? Probably not.
Of course.
Really, that's the thing for every team.
For every team, you're right.
Minus a few, right? I feel like the Steelers, it doesn't matter so much. The Raiders, it doesn't matter so much.
For the Browns, it doesn't matter because they had Flacco last year.
Well, and because their defense can keep them in games.
Yeah.
And Chubb is a top 5 running back.
Miles Garrett's probably more important than the quarterback in Cleveland.
Browns started like 5 or 6 different quarterbacks last year.
Yeah. But I think
still win 11-6.
The Bengals. The thing with Joe Burrow is there's been some. It's been a little bit of a track record now starting to build of him being hurt. Not saying it's his fault, and I'm not saying he's injury prone, but I'm just saying that like the wrist, we don't 100% know what happens when it hits a helmet. You know what I mean? Like It's just that's the thing that makes me nervous. Of course, any team that loses their starting quarterback is down and out, but they do have, I would say, probably one of the best backup quarterbacks in the AFC.
I think he probably could be a starter on some of these teams.
Yeah, Jake Browning led them pretty much to that 9-8 record when Burrow was down for the majority of it. But I am optimistic, but I do think it's just going to be tough. For me, the real question mark is who are the Steelers this year? Because I don't know with Justin Fields and Russ Wilson, is it 2 games go by and they bench one guy and they put the other guy in. Then 3 more go by and they bench him and then they go back. You know what I mean? Like it's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out. And is Justin Fields legit, or was the Bears an anomaly, or is it just something where he's just not? He's fast.
I've heard some of the pros talking about just seeing him even at training camp, and even these guys are just like, this dude is just electric. Yeah. Comparing, Michael Vick and all these other guys, and they're like, this dude is he's a running back that can throw the ball. I mean,
his thing has always been decision making. He just throws too many interceptions. Yeah. So I think that's the question is can he play a little more turnover free ball?
Or do they do the whole, we have different packages kind of thing? Like Russell Wilson's our throwing quarterback. We got a running quarterback. And then for defenses, that's a train wreck because you got to defend which quarterback's coming out and what do we do differently. And that's a whole mess to try to defend. So, and
Russell Wilson's not he doesn't have cement shoes. He's not a Lamar Jackson, but he can move around a little bit. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting. All right, boys. So it looks like we've got our picks in for the AFC. Let's flip it over here to the NFC. Let's start off in the same order. So let's go NFC East. Big Nick, you want to start us off on the NFC East?
Oh, don't get him started.
Gladly.
Here he goes.
NFC East.
Actually, real quick recap. So sorry, I forgot.
Go ahead, buddy.
So Dallas Cowboys 12-5 took the division, had the Philadelphia Eagles right in behind them at 11-6. New York Giants at 6-11. Obviously, they lost Daniel Jones, their starting quarterback, and then the Washington Commanders 4-13. Another rough year in Washington. So Big Nick, go ahead and take it away.
And I hate to do this because I really like that Malik Neighbors and I want big things for him. I think he's super exciting. I think he's, any other year, if we didn't have a Marvin Harrison Jr. in this draft, we're talking Malik Neighbors is the number one receiver taken. Yeah. And so I'm excited to see him play. I'm very happy that the Commanders are under new ownership. That was long overdue. But I don't see this division playing out any different than it did last year. In fact, I believe the Cowboys win it at 12-5 and the Eagles finish with 11-6 again. And looking at the Giants' schedule, all 17 games, unfortunately, I think they are a better team that finishes with a slightly worse record just because the schedule looks to be much more difficult.
Yeah. Well, and you got Daniel Jones coming back from an ACL, and he's slated to be ready for the beginning of the season, but a lot of his thing was mobility. So, as a guy who tore his ACL last year, I know just from a mental perspective how that can kind of wreak havoc on your confidence and your ability. Is he going to be willing to tuck it and cut and do all the things that he did?
We lost a flag football game last week because Mark didn't have the confidence.
That's right. I just wasn't ready to cut and run yet, guys.
And no Saquon Barkley. Right. Yes. No Saquon Barkley.
Who go to the Eagles.
And think of, the Eagles are beating the Giants twice this year. Sorry, Giants, but that's what's happening.
Because you have to know they're picking his brain, say, tell us what you know.
Yeah. And Saquon, and the thing is, he was the centerpiece of that offense. And again, Malik Neighbors is going to be great. I do not hesitate to say that at all. He will be great. Yeah. But it's easier to build that offense around a Saquon Barkley running back than it is a receiver. Somebody's got to get that ball to the receiver. Yeah. So we'll see.
Absolutely. Mr. B, what do you got for us?
So I have some intriguing thoughts here. I don't see the Cowboys putting up the points like they did last year. So
it's pretty up there.
They put up 509 last year. I don't see them keeping that pace. Their defense was pretty tough. The flip side of it is if the Eagles defense could play better, now they're looking really strong, especially with, again, the addition of Saquon Barkley. I actually have the Eagles winning it, but the Cowboys obviously right with them and maybe even tied, and it's going to be a tiebreaker. And then unfortunately the Giants and Commanders are just going to be bottom of the barrel again. I don't see them. I don't think they made enough improvements in the offseason to make themselves relevant.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got the same thing. I think it's going to be close between the Cowboys and Eagles. Those are definitely the two best teams in that division, and honestly, two of the best teams in the NFC. So it's going to be curious to see, where they end up landing. I think the Giants, I tell you what, I don't know if you guys, I don't think you got a chance to, but the off-season Hard Knocks with the New York Giants was probably, that might be one of the best Hard Knocks I've seen. Just really fascinating, man. The behind the scenes GM negotiations and the phone calls and the draft day. And it kind of reminded me of the documentary version of Draft Day with Kevin Costner. If you guys have ever seen that movie, it's very reminiscent of that. Like,
we know Nick's seen it.
They showed everything. They showed the GM talking about the negotiations about Saquon Barkley and how it was very open and transparent.
It was full frontal nudity.
What did he say? Something like he didn't sleep for 10 days or something? Yeah. It was something ridiculous.
That's not good.
Yeah. I watched the first few episodes, but like one of my favorites, The American Dream, Dusty Rhodes used to say, "We've fallen on hard times, Daddy." My Max subscription ran out, so I only got to see a couple of episodes. It's hard times, Daddy.
Yeah, hey, the economy's tough right here. You can't be having 35 streaming services.
Inflation's a bitch.
Any of our Max listeners, employees out there, if you can throw a promo code to Mr. B and Big Nick here, maybe they can finish that and get on House of the Dragon.
Big Nick had to pick up a third part-time job just to make sure.
That's right.
Well, streaming services are getting more expensive than cable. I feel like we're doing a full circle of what the hell's going on, but that's a whole other podcast.
Yeah, I pulled up to Big Nick's house. He's like, "I'll wash your car for $5."
Yeah.
I was like, "All right, make sure you get the
Hard Knocks, baby. Come on." All right, I think we're good on the NFC East. Let's go NFC West. I'll kick it off here, boys. I'm gonna kick off the NFC West for us. I got a little bit of a surprise.
I like it.
I'm going to shake things up a little bit.
Shimmy, shimmy, shimmy.
I'm going to go Los Angeles Rams.
There you go.
It's
Taking
shake and
the
bake,
NFC
and I
West.
helped.
I feel like as long as Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't play any games, there's a firm chance that this could happen. I think that.
Trust me, he feels the same way.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, I'm a better backup.
I think that their running back, Kyron Williams, really showed himself last year.
Oh, yeah.
They got Blake Corum, who was a rookie last year, who really didn't even get to see the field that much, but he was
rookie this year.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he's from this year.
He was, unfortunately, he was beating up on my Ohio State Buckeyes.
Yeah, right. He was the draft pick this year. Matthew Stafford is just, he's a tough SOB, man.
He's a cool bastard, isn't he?
He's a tough SOB, man. I mean, obviously he beat our Bengals, but I still don't dislike the guy. He played for Detroit and took so much slack, over the years. I feel like when he came to the Rams, he really kind of came to his own. They picked up Puka Nacua, who's probably one of the greatest 6th-round picks ever.
Yeah, I mean, if he can even put up close to those numbers again, I mean, that's just...
I mean, so on depth charts, I see him above Cooper Kupp, which is just crazy. I mean, that's
you wonder with that stuff, like when you have to do depth charts, like, is he really the number one? Like,
exactly. But I mean, either way, they probably have the essential equivalent of 2 number ones. Cooper Kupp missed a bunch of time last year, even. And when he came back, you could tell was still kind of just, again, mental. Maybe it was mental from the injury.
How old's Cooper Kupp? Is he's pushing late 20s now, isn't he?
Ooh, yeah, he's got to be
28, 29.
Okay. I mean, I just, in wide receiver years, once you start hitting that 28, 29, you start to
31.
See, I thought he was getting up there. I didn't know it was 31 though. Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's drop off the cliff time for some guys, but I think, they play tough. Obviously, why am I blanking on the coach's name? Help me out here.
McVay.
Sean McVay.
I mean, he obviously is a phenomenal coach. They've had to do some retooling, but I feel like they've kind of pulled things back together. So I don't know. I love the Niners. I'm ready to have a George Kittle. If you're listening, I'm sure you are. You got to come have a beer with the big kids. Cause again, watching Receiver on Netflix, just a cool
A beer? How about all the beers?
All the beers.
Big kids are buying.
All the
on
beers.
us.
But not Big Nick, because remember, I'm saving up for that Max.
He's got a lot of windshields to wash.
Hey, we'll make sure we'll go during happy hour.
That's right.
Thank you.
Yeah,
that's right. And then we'll see Big Nick in the corner as George is trying to go to the bathroom. Like, George, can I borrow $20? I'll get you back, man. I swear. I got you.
I saw your contract.
I'm good for it. I swear. I got all these windshields lined up for next week. So, Big Nick, what are you thinking about it? I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
I share a lot of your same thoughts. And as much as you love George Kittle, I'll throw out there that I think I equally love Debo Samuel the same amount that I love George Kittle.
Oh, Mr. Smiley in front of the camera.
Dude, very lovable as well.
You cannot wipe the smile off that dude's
lovable
face.
Badass.
And and with how tough and how hard he hits people and runs through people on the field, I expected him to just be this mean asshole type of dude that nobody wants to be around.
What's his name? Debo.
Yeah, stay out of his way or he'll smack you in the face. No, he's just smiling the whole time. He seems like he seems like he can be the life of the party too. So that team feels like a lot of fun.
Didn't you love the story where I guess his dad called him Debo because when he was a kid he kept just taking everyone's shit?
Yeah, taking milk money.
Exactly from Debo. And I was like, oh, that's dad named him Debo because he's taking everyone's stuff.
I think the Niners are a great team. I think that they're a solid front to back type of team. The thing that scares me with the Rams, their special teams was not impressive last year, but their offense was. Puka Nacua, how the heck did he last to the 6th round? When I mean, watching that dude, he's what, 5th or 6th round?
6th round.
6th round. So
I'm pretty sure 6th round.
If not, he was the 5th round. But regardless, it was 5 rounds too many for that dude because he not only is his hands excellent, the routes are excellent. He's tough as nails. He reminds me a little bit of a kind of different version of Debo Samuel. So I got Rams. I'm with you, Mark. Rams eking out a win of this division 11-6 to the 10-7 49ers. I also expect the Cardinals to take a good step forward and make some way in the division, but it's not their time yet. Rams win the division.
And he is a 5th rounder, so I apologize.
Who did Puka play for in college?
USC, right? Or
That's right,
or was
okay.
it Washington?
Uh-oh.
I think it was USC.
Research team's going to have to take a look at this one.
I haven't seen him all week.
BYU.
See, and
BYU.
I think he was one of these receivers that I'm sure he had great tape, but when you look at who did he play, these guys take a bump if you're not in the top 10 schools.
Yep.
Which history has shown that there's so many amazing receivers. They just need the time to play.
Yeah,
there's 15 guys that are on the bench that if they had the reps with the one team, they could produce as well. It's just who are they wanting to give the opportunities to, and it's a kind of a odds game.
He played for Washington for 2 years and then played for BYU for 2 years. He was drafted 177th overall in the 5th round to the Los Angeles Rams. And I think that he may have set some rookie records with
he did.
Yeah, set the rookie records for receiving yards and receptions, along with being named to the Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
And a second team All-Pro. He's one of those dudes like quickly became a household name, I think, because it's kind of a fun name. Like Puka Nacua sounds like something out of like Dragon Ball Z or Pokemon or something, right? Like, but then so like that's like fun to kind of laugh about. I'm telling you, dude, I'm impressed every Sunday when I watch NFL football because there's just so many impressive athletes on the field. Yeah. But watching him, my God, man, I was blown away at the talent. I'm sitting there going, one, how did I not know this guy's name? And B, how the heck did he last to the 5th round? He's just amazing. And he's tough as nails.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just an impressive guy overall. Mr. B, what's your thoughts?
I think, I mean, we started to talk about it and then we had to shut Dick down. I think with the 49ers, the Brandon Ayuk situation could really affect how they look because obviously to lose, in theory, their number one to a trade, this late in the preseason could be an issue. But I still think the 49ers defense is tough. If Debo can stay healthy and they can replace Ayuk with the targets, I still think they win it. I think the Cardinals make a even bigger leap. I think they surpass the Seahawks and they give the Rams a run for their money. Yep. But I see the 49ers winning again. I think they win 11 or 12 games.
Well,
not a bad choice.
And not that anybody's going to look at this as a huge loss, but I still remain a very big fan of this player. Keep in mind, Chase Young, no longer a 49er, now a New Orleans Saint. So if you wanted to look to where they may have lost something on defense, I would suggest that. But was he anywhere near the best defender they had? No, absolutely not. So it remains to be seen if that truly is a loss for them. But yeah, I mean, they're just such a solid team. But again, I don't understand. And I love their coach. Shanahan's one of my favorite coaches. And I was one of the guys that was willing to die on the hill. And that's right. I was killed. I was killed that day.
I shot in the face.
I wanted Shanahan to be the Browns head coach when he back in the day when he was our offensive coordinator and we were hunting around for a new head coach. It made all the sense in the world for him to be our head coach, and we made a typical Browns move and let him go. And Shanahan, I think, is awesome, but I just don't know why they just completely butt fumble sometimes, right? Like they did not look that great against. They did not look that great against the Browns last year.
Well, we were talking about
great against the Detroit Lions for 2.5 quarters in the playoffs.
Well, and even the Bengals, we manhandled the 49ers. So it's one of those things too, is I think we talked about AFC, NFC when they play each other. It's sometimes different type of football. I feel like it's a little bit more hard nosed in the AFC. And yeah, I don't know where that happens and why that happens, but
yeah.
No, the NFC West, I think, is an interesting one. I still think, again, like the Rams could really push for it. I'd like to see the Cardinals. Let's see if they get 9 wins this year, maybe 10.
Yeah, it's possible, man. I mean,
I'd like to see Marvin Harrison have a great rookie campaign, but go Bucks.
There you go. All right, boys, let's head south again, down to the NFC South. We got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers,
the garbage division.
Won that division. They are kind of the flaming dumpster of the NFL, unfortunately. Sorry to all the fans, although that might be changing a little bit this year. Let's see. But we got the Tampa Bay Bucks, who won the division at 9-8, Saints at 9-8 as well. But they actually missed the playoffs. It's so crazy when you get the division champ with the same record as somebody else in the division, and one wins the division and the other one completely misses. Atlanta Falcons came in at 7-10. Carolina Panthers 2-15.
Ouch!
Yikes!
Hey, Mark, we know those years as Bengals fans. We know those years.
Yeah. No judgment here. We've suffered it. So, Mr. B, we'll kick it your way first. Who do you got for the NFC South this year?
This one,
who's emerging from the dumpster fire?
I think you can take a coin and flip it and be like, all right, that's who's doing it. I think the Falcons are the ones that are going to end up winning this year.
Yeah,
I'm a huge Kirk Cousins fan, even though that whole drafting the quarterback thing, I don't know what was with that, but I think he improves the offense. I think also Bijan Robinson, I think, has a much better year this year. So I see them winning this thing. Again, in that division, you clearly can win it with 9 wins. And so they only had to win 2 more games, and you're right in the sweet spot. But biggest question would be is if their defense can improve. Yeah, I'm going to go with the Falcons. And it's going to be close, though. I mean, who's number 2? I think besides the Panthers, Saints and Buccaneers are going to be fighting for number 2.
I like it. Big Nick, what you got?
Well, and the thing here is I do like the Panthers coaching hire of Dave Canales. I think that was a wise move and a step in the right direction. But unfortunately for Panthers fans, I think that they remain at the bottom of this division. There's still a lot of growing up for those kids to do. I hate this division. I think it's going to be rather competitive. But the reason why I hate it is I think that we're sitting on a Saints and Bucks teams that finish at a 9-8, both of them finishing at a 9-8. So there will be some tiebreaker that has to happen here for the determination of who wins the division. I really love Mike Evans. I think that he continues to impress me year after year after year after year. I keep waiting for him to get old and stop impressing.
1,000 yards, 1,000 yards every year.
And I tell you, I think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer in my opinion. And
absolutely.
So with the task of choosing between the tiebreaker for the sake of Mike Evans, being a true fan of his, I hope that it's the Bucks that gets that tiebreaker.
Yeah, he had a big year last year, and he continues to help carry them. I don't see the Panthers. I don't know. I'm not sold on Bryce Young. Sorry, all those Carolina Panthers out there. Should have taken CJ Stroud probably.
He's just a little guy.
He is just a little guy. I remember the first video I saw of him in training camp after they drafted him, and he walked up behind his offensive lineman, and I'm like, what little kid did they let on the field with?
No, isn't he? He's like 5'10", 185 pounds.
Yeah, he's a very, very little guy.
That's Mr. B size. That's me being like, all right, let's go play quarterback, guys.
Exactly. And the receivers, Deontay Johnson, and Adam Thielen, like
he's on his last couple years. Yeah,
I mean,
pushing 30.
So there's nothing really about them that impresses me that much. The Saints. Derek Carr seems like a nice guy, but Alvin Kamara
seems like a nice guy. That's a way of saying these guys are boring, right? Like,
am I wrong though?
No, you're not wrong at all. Like, yeah. You're right. David Carr does he does seem like a nice guy. He really does seem like a nice guy. But sorry, did I say David Carr? That's the brother, and I'm sure the whole Carr family is fantastic.
Sure they're lovely. They're lovely people.
You know what? If I had a barbecue,
they host a great Thanksgiving.
They cook a great beef stew.
If I had a barbecue, I wish the whole Carr family would come over. Yes. And you know what? Hey, David and Derek Carr, for a moment, could you quit being so damn handsome? There's other guys on this planet. We're trying to live here, right? We're trying to live, but just. The Saints, to me, sorry to interrupt you, Mark, but
you're fine.
I'm glad you said that. Seems like a nice guy because there's nothing about them other than the uniforms that makes me want to watch them play. Like they
And when
just
you think
seem
New
so boring.
Orleans, you think pizzazz, you think Drew Brees, you think the energetic pre-speech huddle where he's firing the guys up, and you're like, oh man, watch out for the Saints. Their defense might be terrible, but they're going to put up 50 on you. You know, ever since he left, they have just struggled to really get any type of consistency. I like Jamal Williams, the running back they got from the Lions, but he's buried on the depth chart. And Chris Olave, pretty good, right? Ohio State guy. Rashid Shaheed, I don't know. He's
got some wheels.
Yeah, he's got some wheels. But again, can the quarterback get it to him? You know what I mean? And he got ran out of the Raiders, and they brought in Devontae Adams, who was his best friend, you know, and he ends up getting run out of the Raiders. So, not to say that the Raiders was Derek Carr's fault. I'm not saying that at all. There's a whole other train wreck happening that he kind of got scapegoated for. But
that was a lot of coaching. A lot of the coaching was
and GMing that was poorly executed. But yeah, so nothing exciting there. Baker Mayfield impressed me last year. But again, I'm with you, Big Nick. I think it's more Mike Evans and Chris Godwin that impressed me than Baker. I've got the Falcons as well. Kirk Cousins,
smart man,
my favorite from Netflix. That Netflix show, man, very quality. The quarterback show, probably one of the nicest guys I've never met. Kirk Cousins. Probably give you the sweater vest off of his back if
I burned my favorite sweatshirt.
Yeah, I'm going to write him a letter and see if he'll be the godparent to my children.
Yeah, exactly.
I wonder if he'll adopt me.
Yeah,
I feel like I could mail that dude my wallet and be like, "Hey, I'm going to be down there in a few months. Just hang on to this for me. It's got all my important things in it." And he'd be like, "Sure, man, I got you covered."
I mean, I just want to see him have a good year because of that. Like, you just have a healthy
injury last year.
Yeah.
I mean, that was devastating. Well. He's just a likable guy.
I wonder how many times a day he says "totally super duper."
Super
duper.
The Ned Flanders of the NFL.
Yeah. and then his alter ego, Kirk Chains.
Yeah.
I love it. You like that? I love it, man. I freaking love it. It's fantastic. Yeah, I don't get the whole drafting a quarterback. I'm like, what are you doing? Again,
I kind of get it, but it's
a major
still like
injury.
But it's still like it seemed like they burned a very high pick.
That's a high pick. Go get yourself a top receiver. Go get yourself a pass rusher. Go get yourself an offensive lineman. I mean, I don't know. You signed him for 4 years and a shit ton of guaranteed money,
a bunch of money.
But that's like, no offense, Big Nick. That's kind of like the Deshaun Watson move of like, are we sure we want?
None offense taken. Nobody hated that Deshaun Watson move.
I know, exactly.
And the thing here is, and I don't know this to be the case. My guess here is he was an insurance policy for the draft pick was an insurance policy for a major injury to an older quarterback who's coming in. Cousins is the man. Nobody's arguing that. But I think what they're trying to do is I think that they've looked at the Green Bay Packers model and saying, you know what? We can be one of those teams that lives in the old school days of let's get a quarterback and put him on the bench and let him learn at the knee of this other quarterback and at our coaching staff, because look what it's done in Green Bay. Green